Hi, I'm Karl Wells. Well, my guest today has had one foot firmly planted in the corporate business world and another foot planted in the world of musical theater for much of her life. For over 30 years, she's been the president of Quality Plus Inc., which is a management company consulting in health, safety, environmental, and quality systems. She's also the executive producer and artistic director of Tada Events. It's my pleasure to welcome this very busy lady, Terri Andrews, to the program.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be here. Yeah.
So I'm assuming that much of your artistic qualities you probably inherited from your dad, or?
Yeah. I guess the love of a good story came from my mother. Mm-hmm. You know, she did recitations and all that sort of stuff, but she couldn't sing a note. And Dad, of course, was a working musician, so our house was Chrissy Andrews, mm-hmm. Yeah. And house was always filled with musicians and music, and you know, I remember as a little girl, Dad worked at Sears in the daytime, so you know, you had to have a side gig.
Yeah, that's right. Everybody
maybe that's why I do, is because I saw Dad do it.
Yeah.
So he was working all day and then playing all night, and I'd be in the car with Mom or in the station wagon, because there were so many of us, going to pick up his drums to take them from one place to the next so that they'd be there for the night before. But yeah. That's where it comes from Dad.
Where would he be playing? I guess places like Fort Pepperell,
a lot,
the old colony.
Yeah, you got that.
Yeah.
During the war and you know the time thereafter, a lot of what he was doing was down on the base. But I remember him going back and forth on the weekends to Argentia. Now that was after the time, but there was still a presence out there. And, you know, they'd go as far, him and his band would go as far as Gander on a Friday night to do a gig. But in town, they were doing a lot of the old colony and the Commodore and, you know, stuff down at the Star of the Sea, or, you know, wherever it had to be. But the colony and the Commodore, I remember a lot. Mm. Yeah.
Now, you went to Holy Heart of Mary when it was Roman Catholic, all girls, uniforms, the sisters. What were those years like?
You know, it was interesting because at least one, maybe two of the years that I was there were a lot of girls in that school. There were 1,644 of us at one point, and we were actually that year on shifts, because
this was like the baby boom, I guess.
I guess that's what it was. Yeah. Well, when I think about it, yeah, that's probably what it was. Yeah. And some people have good memories, some people have bad memories. Mine are pretty well good memories, and I guess maybe this whole producing thing showed up then, because I was on the student council and the social committee, and you know, pretty involved in arranging concerts and so on. And the student council had a pretty good relationship with the administration and the nuns at that point, and we would work out some deals that if we can have these bands that normally wouldn't be at Holy Heart in an all-girls school, then we can make this kind of a revenue, and then we can split it. And there were little, you know, that kind of stuff was open to me, and I still had to kneel on the floor, and if the uniform didn't touch the floor, then you had to let your uniform down. But we had a lot going on and a lot of camaraderie, and as I said, my experiences with the staff there were always really good, so it was great.
And the theater in that school,
state of the art at the time.
That was really the arts and culture center of its day.
It was, yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And the sound...
What was it, 1,100 seats or something?
At then it was around 1,100 seats, yeah. They've changed the configuration a little bit, but when we had assemblies, when you think about 1,644 people going to school there, we couldn't accommodate them all in that theater. So when we had assemblies, but when we had concerts, we had a lot of stuff that we would do there, and they still have it available to them, which is great, but the community now does as well. We were working in a space that is still enviable to be able to do it. So and there were AV rooms, and there were choral rooms, and there were band rooms, and from an arts perspective, and sports as well, but I'm not that sporty. From an arts perspective, it was the place to be, and it was utilized quite a lot.
And what about you now? Your talent, did it first manifest itself in acting, singing, producing what?
Singing. Singing. I took voice lessons and piano lessons, and then continued with voice lessons right up into my 20s. I actually didn't get involved in theater until I did a musical with, I think it was Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
And it was because of the music that I auditioned for it, and I really liked acting. And then after that, I studied acting, which has become sort of my heart. But I'm very firmly rooted in the musical side of everything.
And where was Oklahoma produced?
At the Arts and Culture Center.
I think I saw that.
Yeah. There's a lot of us who are out there.
I probably saw you in Oklahoma.
I was, strangely enough, because I'm not a dancer, but I was cast as one of 2 dance hall girls. And it was so much fun. It was so much fun.
I bet, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a couple of times when I got cast in roles where they were dancing, and I'd be behind the scenes going, what are they thinking to put me in that role? But because I was a singer.
Now, that probably wasn't the first time you appeared on stage.
No.
What was your first stage appearance?
I got a very vivid memory, because it was so horrible, of being 4 years old. I was at a school called Winterton, so where the CNIB is down by the lake now. That was a school, and that's where I started school, was at Winterton. And we did, I think it was at the Little Theatre in Munn. We did a play there. I was honest to God, 4 years old. And I was one of the elves in The Shoemaker and the Elves, and all of our costumes were paper mache or crepe paper. So we had to run out, and we jumped up and sat on this little table, the elves in the nighttime working on the shoes, and my little crepe paper outfit caught on a nail on the set.
Tore.
And when I stood up, I fell over. And I remember running off the stage crying, and stage manager, I guess, on the side saying, go back out, go back out. No, I'm not going. But anyway, I went back out, and I think that set me up. That's probably why I didn't do theater for a lot of years.
It's funny. I have a horrible memory about those crepe paper.
Oh my God.
Costumes too, because when I was in kindergarten, I had one for the school Halloween party, and I was dressed as a clown, and it got torn, and I felt so miserable.
Yeah,
having
exactly.
to walk around with this torn costume.
See, it's still with you. How many years later? That's right. That's why I place an awful lot.
And
no,
I can show you a picture of me in that costume taken at Harrington School.
Go away.
And I have the saddest face you have ever seen on a child. I mean, it's incredible.
I'm telling you know what? Of our age group, there's probably not too many people who don't have it. Or the crepe paper streamers in the gym,
that's right.
And then the water hits them and the dye goes there.
That's right. Now, so you have these two talents. You've got this talent for business and this talent for the arts. They're not mutually exclusive, but it's unusual to see somebody who kind of can nurture both of these and develop them into, kind of competing careers. How did you manage to do that?
Well, I guess I went out to BC, and I was working in a law firm in the day, part-time, and I was going to school, and I was doing theater, and I was doing, music and so on. And I got involved in theater pretty heavily in Victoria primarily, and then Vancouver afterwards. Got an agent, got to the point where they said I became castable. We'll see. But I came home, and because my dad was dying, and I came home for a little while. And I figured out that living hand to mouth was not really what I liked to do. You know, if I had a show or something, then that was great and everything was done, paid the rent and so on. And if I didn't, then I lived like an artist. And, you know, I was going now, this can't be the best way to do it. So I started taking business courses as well. So I'd done theater and I'd done English, and then I went into business school. And I like that. And I think that probably goes back to Holy Heart and being the one who was producing or you know, on the social committees or on the student councils or so on. So that side of things always intrigued me. Maybe it's just that I'm not capable of having a boss. I don't know, you know. But so I started doing that, and project management became my thing, and marketing. That led into some companies that I was involved with. Because I could write, I would be writing technical papers and so on. And it's just a convoluted way that finally what ended up happening was, well, I love theater, I miss it. I love music, I miss it. I love doing this management stuff that I do, and now I'm trained as a quality auditor at this point and a quality technician. So why don't I open this company? And that led on to, I just kept going to school, you know, and taking things. And it's project management. So for me, these big musicals and these big events that I do, they are projects. So you conceptualize the project, you fund them, you build them, you put your team together, you execute them, and then you demobilize. And to me, that's what we do in the quality environmental health and safety world, is big projects and manage the projects.
So yeah, let's talk about that. So Quality Plus Inc. If I came from another country or whatever and I knew nothing about your business, what say would you, if I owned a furniture company, my company made furniture and sold furniture, what could you do for me in my company?
Well, you don't have to come from another country not to know. I mean, if people ask me what I do and I tell them, they'll go blank. A lot, you know, unless you're in an industry that has dictated you need it. But when you find out, it's what people do anyway, inherently, if they're good business people. But essentially, if they're international standards, that if you want to sell your product or your service to a certain industry or to other areas in the world, you need to be recognized or have some accreditation or have something similar. So when the global marketplace opened up, and we were all of a sudden selling products or services to Brazil or Japan or the United States or so on, they all had their own quality standards that you had to adhere to and meet. So companies that wanted to do that had to find out what all these quality standards were, and if they needed policies or procedures or processes, or link their strategic objectives with quality objectives and all of that good stuff, QA, QC, inspections. They had to do that to Canadian standards, to American standards, to Japanese standards, whatever it was. And a couple of decades ago, there was an international standard, ISO 9001, which is a quality standard that is international, it's across the world. So now what that means is that if you build a system, which is your policies, your procedures, your way to do things, if you do that and you are compliant with this standard in Canada, then you are compliant anywhere in the world. So now companies anywhere in the world can say that company in Newfoundland has a quality system and it meets this standard, and that is equivalent to what we require, so they don't have to send anyone that, you know, they can buy from you. So that changed the landscape, and that is the basis of what I do. But then there would be a laboratory quality system, quality standard, and there's quality standard for everything, software development. So what my company does will be, here's the standard, we don't know your business, but we can't learn it, but we know the standard. So we know what you need to do, you tell us how you do it. And then we'll help you put this together and so on. And likewise, over the years, you know, between myself and the people who work with me, we got the qualifications for health and safety and also for environmental management. So these are all systems that help you meet either quality requirements, business requirements, environment.
And I'm guessing, Terri, that because of the pandemic, you've been able to adapt and do more and more of your work online and remotely, right?
Yeah, an awful lot. It's changed a lot. As you know, the whole theater and production side of things crashed. We were the only big show in Newfoundland that was on the stage, and they walked in and said, "You got, 3 hours. Get out." On opening night of La Cage, that was devastating, and that's for all of us in that industry. It's been a really rough ride. On the other side of things, because we could pivot, and we were already working in systems where, I was do a lot of work offshore and on big construction sites, or I'm a quality auditor and I would be doing audits flying to the States or somewhere to do an audit. We could go into the system that they already had and say, listen, we can do a lot of this stuff online. People were getting laid off, but they still had to have their quality audits or their quality people or their health and safety. They still had to do that. There's still incident investigations. So we could do that, a lot of it online. And I think it's changed the way that a lot of people are doing business, and it's going to continue to a certain extent that way. So we continue to be busy out of the office and never did stop.
And your husband, Wayne Party, he works in this field as well, right?
Yeah.
So what role does he play?
He's the guru on occupational health and safety with our company. He's been on the committees that have written the standards, and he was advisor to the minister and changed the occupational health and safety regulations here and so on. We've written a couple of books together. He's written some himself, and that's what he does. So and it's funny because he did that and I was doing this when we met. There's not many people do what we do here. So it was kind of strange that we would, oh, you do that? You understand what I do? And he works with my company as well now. And but also we both do the shows together because he's also a really good singer. And so, it's a good life.
Marriage made in heaven, sounds like.
Well, depending. If you don't get along, it would be a marriage made in hell. But
Yeah.
We work together really well.
Terri, just talk for a second about leadership. Do you think great leaders are born, or?
I think people are born with the ability to be great leaders. So like some are more inclined that way. If you're a total introvert, then you probably don't want to be. But it's a skill, and it's a skill that needs to be developed, and it's one that I'm still developing. I'm a Leo, so I think I'm a leader. Other people think I'm bossy. It's just the way it is. But it's evolving for me, and I'm learning that to be a leader a lot of the times is not that you have to do it, which I think is a mistake that some people will make early on. I certainly did. It's surrounding yourself with people who are as good at what they do or better than you, and then knowing what their capabilities are. For me, it's being organized. Like mayhem drives me crazy, and then letting people do what they do. So my vision and my version of leadership now, or how I see it, is the ability to bring a good team together, allow them to do what they do, but keep them focused. And I think that's in my life, the places where I operate, that's what leadership is, and establishing vision. So if you're not someone who has vision and can carry through to the end of the vision, or see how to execute it, or can bring people on who can execute that vision, leadership roles are probably not where you want to be. But motivation and respect, it's an interesting thing, and as I say, I'm still learning, and but are they born? Yeah, I think they're born.
Yeah. And
they're either nurtured, or they nurture it, or they don't.
Yeah. Makes sense. Now let's talk about Tada. Tell me about Tada events.
Tada events is my love child. We're almost 20 years at this now, and we started out doing corporate events and some theater, but we're kind of known for doing the big concerts, the big divas shows and so on, and the Comedy Fest and with Pete and Leo, but our big musicals are our sort of trademark, and we've had quite the ride in the last few years because, as I said, we were the show that was on stage and was shut down. So I've had 4 shows that we either canceled or pushed out during this last period of time, but we're tenacious. And this season, we're about to, well, actually, I'm giving you a scoop now because we're announcing our winter season now. So we're coming back with a vengeance, like full stage, full audience, and the whole crew back for Divas in December. And we're doing, we've been commissioned by Frosty Festival to do their grand concert. So that's a big, big show. And then we're doing a 2-week run of Kinky Boots.
Oh,
And
the Cyndi Lauper show.
we're doing Cyndi Lauper's show, yeah. Hence the ring, Kinky Boots.
I noticed.
Yeah.
Well, that should be fun.
It is fun, and it's I have musical directors who work with. They're such a strong team. So Evan Smith and Bill Brennan, they are my go-to musical directors, and they're right there from the beginning. And Pam Pittman is my principal choreographer. Elizabeth Hartling is doing choreography on Divas, but there's several more. There's costume designers and technical director and my stage managers. We've all been together for a while, and John Rao over at Holy Heart said one time, guys, you're like a machine. You roll in and you roll out, and that's what I'm talking about. It's Tada is not me. I'm the figurehead, if you will, and I'm probably, well, I'm the money, but they are the show. And I will come in with a germ of an idea and say, I want to do this, and then they will take it, and then they'll come back with something. I go, oh my God, that little video I had in my head could never have been as good as that.
Now, when you're trying to figure out what kind of show to do, you actually fly to Broadway.
I do a lot, yeah.
And check out shows in New York, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We just got back, actually. Pam and I were down there, and Jackie, who does all of our props. We saw 7 shows in 5 days.
Oh, God.
And the one with Hugh Jackman, the Music Man, was just because, like, Hugh Jackman, oh my God, the Music Man. But yes, we do. And sometimes we'll go down and meet with production teams and just see how they do things. We're not going to reproduce Broadway shows. But what it allows us to do is take elements or say, I'll be sitting there going, okay, I'll do the whole show like this, going, okay, I can see how they rigged that, and those lights are like this. And then Pam will be watching dance steps and saying, okay, this is really an interesting thing, or, so we'll look at that. And one of the things that I really wanted from the beginning, from Tada, was that we could put, to the best of our ability within our budget and the technical restraints that we have, or the technical capabilities that we have, putting the package around some of these shows and these performers, because we've got, we've got world-class performers. We say that all the time, but we've got a lot of them, and they are world-class, and they're highly trained. This is not just a little hole in the wall anymore from that talent perspective. But sometimes they don't have the package put around them. And so going down and seeing shows, or going to London and seeing shows, allows me to look at the package that's around something, and then I'll come back and I'll start going click, 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 click. What can I do that will, to execute a show that will make it as visually and as, audio and everything as good as we can, and stays in the nature of what the production was. Or I'll look at it and go, that was rats. We're not going to go there. We're going to go, we went to see a couple of productions. I won't say what they were, but some of the big ones we've done, and came back and said, we will not do anything like that. So we've gone exactly the other way.
What's the most magical moment you've ever experienced in a theater?
The most magical moment for me was in a dark theater, sitting down with a girl named Harmony, who was she was young, she was a teen. And after we did rehearsal, she was in a show, she came over and she sat down with me and she said, if you had some advice for me, I'm trying to get into theater school, I think at the time, and you had some advice for me, what would it be? And such a sweet question. And I said to her, well, I'll tell you a story. I auditioned when I was in Vancouver for the touring company in Cats. And I went to the audition and they line you up 20-some at a time and go, you. You're the type, you stay. I got through that. And then they did group movement dance, and I'm not a dancer, and I got through that, and I was like, hallelujah, I'm getting into the singing auditions, and I'm a singer. And so I got in, you know, the people from New York were there and so on, and I stood up and they said, hi, my name is Terri, la la la, and they said, can you hit the high C? And I went, oh yes, I can. And they said, thank you very much, you can go. And as I was walking out the door, I looked to the girl and I said, well, what just happened there? And she said, what did they ask you? I said, they asked me if I could hit the high C. And I said, yes, I can. She said, they're looking for the E, and you had the opportunity to open your mouth and sell yourself, and you didn't. And I went, oh, really? So when I was talking to this girl, Harmony, I said, my advice to you is when they ask you for the high C, tell them you got the E. And I got an email, that was almost 20 years ago. I got an email a couple of years ago from Harmony, and she said, I'm at such and such a place. I went to the audition. They asked me if I had the high C. I told them I had the E, and I got the part. And that defines my magical moment.
Mm. Thank you so much, Terri.
Thank you.
It's great chatting with you. Terri Andrews, ladies and gentlemen. And that's it for this edition of our program. We'll see you again next time.